In From Software games, item locations contribute to world building. They often deliver subtle pieces of lore, revealing hints about past events. In today's video, we'll examine some of the strangest item locations in Elden Ring and posit a few theories about their placements. Let's begin. During their youth, the Omen twins were confined to the capital's sewers. They were bound by golden shackles, specifically made to restrain them below ground. As expected, Mohg's shackle lies in the subterranean shunning grounds, the place where he and his brother grew up. We find it lying on a pile of filth, presumably discarded upon his escape from the sewers. Curiously, though, Morgoth's shackle is nowhere near this place. As it turns out, it is in fact sold by Patches, who's willing to part with it for a few thousand runes. Patches is a recurring character in From Software games, a greedy and mischievous man who often betrays the protagonist when given the chance. Considering the vast power gap between him and Morgoth, it seems surprising that he, of all people, would hold such a significant item in his possession. However, there might be a simple explanation behind this. During his questline, Patches reveals himself as a member of the Recusants, the Volcano Manor faction sworn to Rykard.
Then stay away from the Volcano Manor! Bye now!
We know the blasphemous claw was given to Rykard so that he might challenge Malekith. Perhaps Morgoth's shackle ended up in Rykard's possession for a similar purpose, knowing he would eventually need to challenge his half-brother for Leindel's throne. After his consumption by the god-devouring serpent, though, these relics were no longer useful to him. At that point, Patches probably looted the shackle from the manor, suspecting it might be of interest to a stronger Tarnished. During their reign, Radagon and Marika bestowed their seals upon chosen vassals. We find one of them on a corpse, lying on the ground floor of Fort Faroth, a rather curious location for a royal sigil. The seals are described as symbols of lifelong duty, from which there was no deliverance, meaning their bearers had important missions and were expected to remain loyal to the House of the Erd Tree. Although we wear them as talismans, they share a striking resemblance with Messmer's eye seal, suggesting they served a similar function. The bearer of Radagon's Soreseal may have been sent to Caelid as a spy, a solemn duty which required the utmost loyalty. He may also have been entrusted with the right half of the Dectus medallion, located on the upper level of the fort. Radan had a lot of respect for his father, explaining why he tolerated his envoy in Redmane territory. In the end, the bearer of the seal passed away, possibly from starvation. At the start of the game, our journey begins in the Chapel of Anticipation, an isolated structure standing on a rock formation, off the coast of Stormvale Castle. Up on the chapel's balcony, we find the ashes of the Stormhawk King, a previous ruler of Stormvale. Considering his importance, it seems strange that his ashes lie outside the castle. Maybe they used to be stored on the lower level, an abandoned section of the castle, fallen to ruin. When Godwyn's cadaver sprouted from below, the castle's occupants might have relocated the ashes to the adjacent chapel, back when it was still connected to Limgrave. Alternatively, maybe the ashes placement dates back to a more distant time, back when Godfrey held the castle. Although they're nowhere near as powerful as they once were, the Godskins still hold a few pockets of influence in the lands between, such as the Divine Tower of Caelid, as well as the Windmill Village. They are, however, entirely absent from Limgrave and Stormvale Castle. And yet, that's precisely where we find two of their ancient relics, the Godslayer Seal and the Godskin Prayerbook. Based on what we know of Stormvale's history, it seems unlikely that the Godskins ever occupied the castle. So, why are these items here? Back when he fled the royal capital, Godric the Grafted looted precious relics, such as Marika's Veil, for instance. He brought them with him to Limgrave and stored them in his newly conquered castle. The Godskins' belongings may have been among those treasures, formerly kept somewhere in Leyndell. They may have been considered historical heirlooms, preserved by Marika since the time of the Erdtree's foundation, possibly because the Glomide Queen was a relative of hers. Another plausible theory is that Godfrey kept them under guard due to their dangerous potential. They are, after all, stored behind a stone imp fog wall, which requires a stone sword key to open. In order to ascend at the Gate of Divinity, the Hornsent envisioned a ritual. The conditions required to achieve it were transcribed on a scroll made of white tree bark, possibly the same trees seen in Enirilim. We find this item on the upper levels of the specimen storehouse, the largest wing of the Shadow Keep. Considering its importance to Hornsent culture, it probably came from the Spiral Tower. Only it was already shrouded in shadow during Messmer's crusade, preventing his troops from invading it. They did, however, plunder artifacts from the Rau region, which may have been connected to the Spiral Tower in ancient times. The Divine Rite Scroll was probably found around here and brought back to the Shadow Keep by Messmer's men. They were seemingly unable to decipher the Hornsent's language, though, meaning they had no idea of the scroll's true value. Thus, the secret of Queen Marika's rise to power was stored in an unremarkable corner of the tower, shelved amidst dozens of scattered pages. Interestingly, one of Mikola's crosses lies on the 4th floor, a short distance from the scroll. His plan to achieve the ritual was already well underway by that point. So, maybe he sought out the scroll as a final confirmation that his plan could work, casting away the last remnants of doubt within him before he climbed the spiral tower.
Now, the vow will be honored, and my lord brother's soul will return.
If you enjoy my content, remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.